We're live. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And we've just got to have a moment because the translators need to find us. We're being translated. I forget the languages, but there's 5 or 6 languages I think that this um, Facebook Live is being translated into. So while we're waiting for the translators to find us, let's talk about the weather. No, just joking. Maybe we can just quickly introduce ourselves. And I think, like, I'm trying to take a minute even just to say that. 40 seconds, 45 seconds. No, just joking. So, yeah, let's say hello. So, hi, everyone. Welcome to this awesome Facebook Live as part of a series called The Choice Challenge. Woo! My name is Sarah Watt, and I am joined today by 3 amazing access consciousness facilitators, people in the world that live and breathe these tools as well. And over to you guys if you want to say hello, starting with you, Sul and Tiffani, maybe.
My name is Sul, and yeah, I'm living in Australia. And
hey guys, it's Tiffani here. So happy to be with you for this choice challenge. What number are we? Number 4, I think, of a series of amazing conversations that people have been having in this group. So thanks for being here.
And my name's Ashlee. I have been using these tools, I think, for about 3 years now, and every area of my life has changed. So I'm so grateful to be able to actually facilitate, others and introduce people to these amazing tools that can change everything if you choose.
Yes, and we are the Aussie contingency. So the way they've sort of split these lives up a little bit, you're getting a little bit of a tool from around the world. I think we had the China contingency yesterday. Simone kicked us off. So we're all Aussies. We all live down under. We're all access consciousness facilitators. And Ashlee, as Ashlee was saying, we've all been using these tools for quite a number of years now. And today we were given the tool as our choice challenge. What would my life, if I chose this, what would my life be like in 5 years? So this is a tool that maybe I discovered not super long ago, like maybe quite recently, as a way to ask a question. And it can really be about anything. That's the thing. It doesn't, the thing with choice that I've found is there's no big choices or small choices. It's like, what if everything you chose was capable, was there to create a different future? Even those things that we're like, we kind of dismiss it a little bit because it's just a small choice. Or some of those ones that we're like, it's such a big choice. I really need to sit there and, mull it over. What are the pros? What are the cons if I choose this? So I'll hand it over to you guys because I'd love to hear how you use this tool and what it creates for you, basically. So if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? So let's go with the order we started with. And Mr. Sul Wynne-Jones, what have you found with this tool? How do you use it, and what's it created for you?
well, I guess my favorite thing about this tool is that it's designed in a way that you can't figure out what it's going to create. So you just have to be aware of the energy of what it will create. So, when you ask, what will my life be like in 5 years, you're not going to get like, oh yeah, I'm going to be, in a mansion and own a Ferrari. It's like, you're going to get an energy of what that choice will create in your life in 5 years' time. So it's a really great way to get out of your head and stop making things complicated, make things easy, and just bring it back to like the choice of like, yeah, okay, so if I choose this, what will it create as my future energetically? And if I don't choose this, what will my future be like? And for most of the time, it's really clear. It's like, okay, this is going to suck or this is going to be awesome. And so, yeah, it's in that way, I think it makes things really easy. And it's actually really hard to avoid your awareness when you ask that question.
Love it. And for you, Miss Tiffani?
Yeah, for me, I was very happy when this is our topic because this is actually one of my favorite tools ever. And And, you know, when you were saying making a list of pros and cons, and I remember making choices from that place and how grueling it could be of like, oh my, I could see like the cons of like 7 different things, and just that being in that real place of like not knowing what to choose, you know, having so many, you know, and I think one of the things that we talk about a lot, you know, with access consciousness and these tools is infinite possibilities. And a lot of people with that are like, oh my God, I don't actually want infinite possibilities. It's too hard. How am I going to make a choice when I have everything available to me? And that's really the joy of possibilities, is that so much is available and everything's available. And this tool is one of those things for me that made it, like Sul was saying, so much easier, so much easier, because, you know, we're energetic beings, you know, like we all, a lot of people who, you know, start to play with these tools or attracted to this idea of what access consciousness is and can be, we have a real awareness of energy and energies. And this tool for me just makes it so easy in being able to look at the energy of what will be created without having to define what the creation will be as a result of your choice, but really that willingness to be in the adventure of what will show up, but really knowing, okay, so if I have this choice or this choice, what will it create in 5 years? And then you get a sense of the energy of what will be created. And like Sul said, most times it's very clear that one of those choices will create a greater sense of lightness, possibilities, space, joy, you know, and it's a really fun thing to play with in terms of really also recognizing that we can be aware of the future that our choices right now will make and create. So yeah, it's really fun.
I love it. Yay. And Miss Ashlee, how do you use this tool? You know, what shows up for you? What's it created for you?
Amazing. I love that, Tiff, because before I started using this tool and before Access Consciousness, I didn't actually recognize that I could be aware of the future. Like, we're so taught to make choices for now. Like, what's this choice going to create, like, right now for me today? And if it's not going to create me more money right now, or if it's not going to, you know, create something that I've decided I desire, then we don't actually often look to the future of like, well, what can that actually create in 5 years' time? And so using this tool has actually allowed me to really acknowledge like my capacity with energy, with being aware of my future. But it's so interesting hearing you guys speak about how much it's changed for you, because I was kind of the opposite. And I was one of those people that asking this question like really rubbed me up the wrong way, because I wasn't willing to be aware of the light and heavy. And so for me, my journey began with this tool, with really actually asking the universe to actually show me what light and heavy was for me. And I know I do speak to a lot of people and they're like, okay, great, light and heavy, but like, what is that? Like, what does that show up like? So where I began with was being actually very frustrated with this tool. And I'm like, how can it be that easy? And so my journey began with asking the universe, okay, show me what light is for me and show me what heavy is for me. And when I actually began to really start asking the universe to show me, what started showing up was what lightness actually was. And for me, it's this space of my whole body expands. There is this greater sense of joy, of possibility, of magic available when I get that sense of lightness. And the heaviness for me in my body it's in my body. And some people, it's interesting because some people get a yes, no in their head. Some people see the word yes, no. For me, it's a body thing. So for me, heaviness is actually that contraction, like that sense of, oh. And so what if you guys began to actually ask, if you're like, okay, that's great, but what is light and heavy? Ask the universe to actually show you and begin to see what shows up. So that's where I began with this, to actually allow it to create more ease for me.
I love it. Thank you so much. And, while you guys were talking, I was like, like, I wonder if we could come up with a bit of an example. Sometimes it's fun to also look at how we use the tools, and sometimes even like the funny times when we kind of use this stuff against ourselves. And even if we can have that as like Ashlee was talking about, to have a lightness in your world about this stuff as well. I think sometimes we also, especially when making choices, especially if we've deemed that choice as something that's going to have an impact on our lives, like we get quite significant about it. And it becomes this thing of, like what we were saying, where you've really got to mull it out and think about it. And, what are the consequences going to be? And how's this going to have an effect on the people around me and all that sort of stuff? But where, if you're willing to play with this, like Tiff and Sul talked about, the energy of choice, and like Ashlee was saying with the light and heavy tool, how much all of that just goes away. And I was trying to think of a time, and I know just recently, I can't remember the exact thing I was choosing, but I remember I'd already made my mind up about what I was going to choose. Like, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but you might be like faced with something that you need to make a choice about, and you're already like, oh, I already know what I'm going to choose. But then you're like, oh, what if I actually use the tools? And I remember being like, okay, so, and it was something that most people would deem a small choice. Like, I think it was just something little. I can't even remember exactly what it was. And so I was like, oh, okay, so if I choose this and just stepped into that future, what will my life be like? And if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And it was so clear in a moment's instant that what I'd made my mind up about was actually not the one that was going to create a greater future for me. And there was such a lightness to it, like Ashlee was saying with the light and heavy thing, and starting to play with what's light for you, how it becomes just blindingly obvious. You can't ignore it anymore. It's like, you can try and trick yourself into thinking, I've got this all figured out. I already know what's going to create the greatest. I already know what's going to be better for everyone around me. And then you ask the question, you're like, oops. So, do you guys have an example of like a situation where you could use this tool somewhere where, like, even quote unquote, the little things, and even if it's not necessarily for the result, but what that felt like in the moment for you to actually put this tool into action? And just anyone, if you want to jump in, go for it if you have something.
I mean, I would say like with food, and I remember, one time Dane, the co-founder of Access, was saying to Gary, why would I use like a question like this for food? And Gary's like, well, if you're gonna chew some gum and you might choke on it or something, so it's like you can use this question, like you were saying, for something really small or for something really like a bigger choice in your life. But a lot of the time, if you go to say, like get something out of the fridge or the cupboard, it's like your body will also give you the energy of what that food is going to create with your body, like energetically. And so many times, we go against that and we just eat, whatever it is that we would like or what looks good, but so that's an example of, with what you're eating or what you're putting on your skin, just to ask, okay, so if I eat this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if I don't, what will my life be like? And you will just you'll get a sense of what it creates with your body as well.
I love that so much. Thank you, Sul. That is nailing it. Like, that is one of those things where, and especially with food and stuff like that, where we already think we know, like it's already like, whatever your diet is or whatever it is, you're like, oh, well, this is what I eat. Or, for breakfast, it's always this, and my meals look like this. And being able to play with some of these tools with your body and the things that pertain to your body and what your body has a say in actually gives your body a chance to speak up and have an input with it as well, without you getting in the way of what that looks like. So that was an awesome example. Anyone else have something that's pinging for them?
I think for me, what's actually popping up is that whole, like, if we talk about money with choice, like they're kind of two topics that don't usually go together, in this reality. And we're taught that, you have to wait for the money to show up in order to choose. So when you actually use this tool, when it comes to actually spending money, then it's so interesting what can actually show up, because you really have to, like, your mind is just so strong it's already decided that, okay, if I spend this money, it's not going to create more because there's less in my bank account. And we go into this space of the logic rather than the choice that future is actually going to create. So with me, it was, I guess, a bigger choice, which I didn't make too significant, was when a friend and I recently, and most of you may know, went around regional Queensland and did a road trip and introduced bars to the community. And so we always had this idea, and we were talking about it, well, I'd been talking about it a lot, kind of to myself, not many other people. And I just got, okay, like, we've got to do this. Like, how often do we just speak about it? And so in that moment, I went, okay, if I choose this, what would my life be like in 5 years' time? And there was just such a sense of lightness and expansion and joy in my world that was undeniable. That, again, that's when it's like, if you use it, it's like you then can't deny, like, when your mind, actually starts speaking to you and going, but how much is that going to cost? And, how much time are you taking off, business, and, all this stuff that we compute and decide and judge. But it's like, so for that tool, for me in that moment, it was like, I could no longer actually listen to my mind, listen to what I'd already decided. And I just followed that. And the really cool thing is, if you follow that lightness, again, it's going to create more lightness as your future. And we actually come back from that trip, and I never, ever thought about the money again once I got that sense, what it was actually going to create. And we come back and I said, you know what, let's just work out like how much we created on the trip, because we ended up doing a few classes and stuff. And it was like basically almost exactly the amount that we had spent was exactly the amount that we actually created on that trip. And I went, oh my God, like, it's that moment where you're like, the universe truly has your back. And if you're willing to get out of, what you've decided, what you've computed, like what this reality would tell you is right or wrong, then the future there is just this massive space of possibility, and this playground where you can have that joy and that magic show up in every single day for you.
Amazing. I love it. Tiff, have you got something?
Well, not necessarily, but just listening to Ashlee and the way you describe that so beautifully, with this tool, you're really inviting the universe to be a part of your choices as well. It's like, for how many of us do we try and make choices from this place of like, it's just me, I've got to make all these decisions, I've got to try and figure out what's going to happen if I do this or what's not going to happen. And this is really like Ashlee said, it's like there's really a universe of consciousness out there that really desires for you to have and be everything that you'd like to be and have. And, it is this willingness to let go of control a little bit, and this willingness to recognize that when you include the universe of consciousness in your choices, everything becomes way easier, and I actually remember sitting in a class many, many years ago. It was with Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, and it was called the Bullet Class. And at that time, there were a lot of people who were like, I want to have an advanced class. And Gary was like, I don't do advanced classes. Every class is for everyone. And then he did this 5-day bullet class, which was like the bullet train to consciousness. And I remember him sitting, it felt like he sat there at the front of the class, at least to me, for 5 days going, guys, it's a choice. And how much the entire class was going, oh, but I don't know how to choose. It doesn't feel like a choice. I feel like I can't choose. I feel like everything's against me. And this tool for me, personally, just took everything out of that difficulty of choosing and into, wow, this is so easy. And I've got a whole entire universe that has my back in showing me, if I choose this, we're talking about 5 years, but you can also ask, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 10 years, 20 years, 50, what will the world be like in 50 years, 100 years? Because every choice you make, yes, it creates your future, but it also has everything's connected. So it has an impact on the entire world, and it can have an impact on the entire world. And if we're willing to be in the question of that, if I choose this, what will my life be like? What will the world be like? And if I don't choose this, the same questions. And it's kind of bigger, but it's so much easier. It has been for me anyway.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think what comes up for me when you're talking about that, and even the thing I love about Access is it's very particular about the words we use, right? So this question is, what would my life be like in 5 years? It's not like, what will it look like? What will it taste like? What will it smell like? It's like, what will it be like? And in that alone, there's such an inclusion of everything. Because when you look at what will my life be like, it's almost like you can't exclude anything else as well. And, in the comments, everyone's like really about the fact that you've brought the universe into this. Like when you ask about what is something going to be like, it's like consciousness is, I heard Christopher Hughes describe it one day as like a tightly woven tapestry, like a big, beautiful big rug with this really closely woven threads that creates this beautiful big tapestry. And it's like every part of it is connected and touching in some way. So what I love about this question and what I love about the tools of Access is the wording around this is like, when you talk about what will my life be like, it does that. It involves the universe. It involves the planet. It involves all of the people around you, and not even necessarily the ones you think the choice is going to impact. It's going to include all of those people that we live here with. So yeah, that's awesome. Cool. What else, guys? Yeah, go, Ashlee.
More to that, Sarah. That's the other thing that's just pinging, whether I'm taking this out of someone's head or someone requires to hear it today. If you ask this question and you don't actually get clarity on the light and heavy, for me, the next questions I go to is, what would I have to lose in order to actually have this clarity, and what would I have to be willing to gain? And if you've done, any Access Consciousness classes before, you may have heard this before, because it's all the places where we're not willing to lose or not willing to gain something that actually creates this space where we don't have total clarity about it. Because if we would have total clarity, then we'd actually know what the future would create. And so for me, it actually hasn't so much been about what would I have to be willing to lose, which is what we tend to focus on so much, but it's been about what would I have to be willing to gain. And what would I have to be willing to gain in the form of the contribution the universe desires to be for me, the greatness that I actually am, the receiving that I could actually have with all things, and that space of total communion. And so it's really interesting, because I think so often we can focus on like, okay, if we have this clarity and we choose this, like, we go into, oh my God, well, what am I going to lose? But like, what would you have to be willing to gain access to? Like, what would you have to be willing to receive about you in order to actually have that clarity with what your life would be like in 5 years? So that was just something I wanted to add about that.
I love it. And I think it's so true. Sometimes we're way more comfortable with, what's not possible than what we are with what's truly possible. So I think that's amazing. Cool. Well, we're nearly at the end of our little segment here. So if you guys in the chat have anything you'd like to add, lowering your barriers, follow the energy. Yep. And I just thought maybe we could I don't know, wrap it up with, when you're using these tools, do you guys have any tips for people? Like, even I know myself, and I mean, I've been using the tools of Access Consciousness for probably 10 years or so now. And sometimes you still forget, or sometimes you still find yourself in this place where you're like doing those things, like weighing up and the pros and cons and going into your mind to try and figure things out. And I thought maybe we could leave people with a little bit of a tip on using the tools of Access Consciousness and how it works for you guys to find that space again when you feel like you contract a little bit down. And I'm sitting here in my office looking out at like my beautiful property and all the trees, and just realizing how much nature is such a contribution to me. So I wanted to mention, for me, when I get to in that place where I'm like, you know, I've asked this question and nothing's light and heavy, and blah, 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 that place where you just like, you get a little bit, you know, cranky or frustrated or whatever. For me, I love to go and take a walk outside. And if I can, have my shoes off or hang out with one of my animals or just hang out in nature for a little bit and just let it go, like almost just forget about it for a little while. And also when you're willing to just let go and not have control, because I think a lot of the time, even I think, okay, well, I'm asking a question, so I need an answer. I need to find a response. There needs to be like this thing that happens now. But how often when you're willing to just ask a question and leave it to the universe to show you, or leave it in space to whatever needs to happen for that to show up for you. So have you guys got any tips on when you're having those moments, or what you do to remember this tool, or when to use it and how to use it?
I would say just like one other thing that you can do with it is, you know, like the question is about getting awareness, not an answer. So, you know, if you find yourself like judging yourself because you're like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have chose that and I chose it. It's like, what if it wasn't about, you know, getting it right, but what if it was about getting more awareness on what your choice creates in your life and having a little bit more ease with that?
Yeah, I would say really remembering that there's no such thing as a right or wrong choice as well. You know, choice creates, and like Sul said, every choice you make will create awareness for you that will then allow you to make a different choice, if, you know, in every moment or whenever you can. And I think the other thing that I would say is be gentle with yourself. You know, this, if you guys are just starting to play with these access tools, or if you've been playing with them forever and you're still like, oh my God, I don't know which tool to use, question, like, what tool can I use here? And like Sarah said, relaxing into that, not from this place of like, oh my God, I need to have the answer right now, but just like question, and then keep being you, enjoying yourself, being gentle with yourself, and knowing that the awareness of which question to use or which tool to use will just show up. It will just be there, you know? So relax, enjoy yourself, be gentle with yourself, and have fun with these tools.
And for me, and I guess this has already kind of been said, but it's to remember that you always have a different choice. So if you get the awareness of something or choose something, it's like you can choose something else 1 second later if you desire. And so much of what we're taught, it's like, you know, growing up, we leave school and people ask you like, okay, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And like, how much does that throw you into this panic of like, oh my God, but what if I don't make the right choice? So it's knowing that you get to choose every 1 second, not even 10 seconds. You can change your mind a second after you say yes or no. And the other one to me that actually has created a lot in my life, and I know there's no such thing as a bigger choice, but if it is something to do with relationship or career or something that, you know, this reality does make significant and you're really going into your head about it, it's to actually go, okay, for the next 3 days, I'm going to just play with, you know, leaving that relationship. For 3 days, just give yourself that space of like, okay, cool. I'm choosing to leave that relationship. And you don't actually have to leave, but energetically like, okay, cool. What would actually show up if I did? And then for 3 days after that, going, okay, cool. I'm now choosing to stay. So that has really contributed a lot to me with, you know, if I am really going into my head and not getting clarity around that light and heavy, then I will just kind of just play with it and go, even if it's a day, cool. So for today, I'm leaving my job. Tomorrow, I'm not. And it will be undeniable. You will get that sense of energy. And usually it can be within the first half an hour. So it's just kind of giving yourself that space. And as Tiff said, relaxing into it, knowing that you get to choose something different again and again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I've loved this conversation. I hope everyone watching this now and in the future that it's been a contribution to you. And the one thing that's really come up throughout this conversation for me that I just wanted to mention again is how much fun can we have with this? Truly, what if every day and every choice and every step we made in life was about the joy and the fun of it? And, you know, if you fall down, pick yourself back up, choose again, have fun making a mistake. Like, what even if that could bring you joy? And what if everything in this life was about having more joy, more fun, and more ease? And that's really what these tools are there to bring and create for you. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you, translators that are translating this for us as well. In 30 minutes, and I know for those not watching this live, it's not going to make any sense, but in 30 minutes, Simone Milasas and Christopher Hughes are doing another Facebook Live from Simone's page, plus I'm sure a bunch of other ones, talking about life hacks with their financial reality. So if you're around, please join them in 30 minutes as well. But for now, we'll leave our little choice challenge here, and you guys can find out when the next one's coming up from this Facebook page. So thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.